Research Institute, Andishe Online-Germany, AOG. Themes from the University. Theme 14. Soul Worlds of the Perfection Process. 1,000 Soul Stages. Master Elahi discussed a very important topic in his works under the title of 1,000 Soul Stages or 1,000 Soul Worlds. It was explained that at each stage the soul must acquire an average of 40 mental positions or ranks. The soul has to complete its perfection by internalizing these 1,000 soul stages and acquiring the 40,000 soul ranks or positions. In this context, it should be remembered that at the beginning of creation, each soul is given the opportunity to reach spiritual perfection for 50,000 earthly years. Since the sum of 2 earthly lives must amount to 100 years, it follows that each soul has 1,000 earthly lives at its disposal, and since it must pass through 1,000 spiritual stages, it is easy to see that on average for each earthly life it must complete at least one spiritual stage comprising 40 spiritual ranks or positions. Mathematically speaking, 50,000 years, time to attain perfection, divided by 50 average years of life in one life. Since every 2 earthly lives must be 100 years, equals 1,000 earthly lives that every human being has available to complete the process of perfection. Of course, this formula is variable. That is, in one earthly life, a person can attain 60 mental positions and in the next 20 or more. The main thing is that all people must have completed the process of perfection within this time. Of course, it is possible for a person to successfully pass all the stages of the soul in one earthly life, or not even take one step on the way to perfection in several earthly lives. Each mental stage is a series of mental spiritual perceptions and experiences at a particular time. For example, a Muslim, a Christian, a Buddhist, a Zoroastrian, or a Jew who learns and practices his religious duties out of true faith may gradually attain one or more basic spiritual stages, which elevates him to higher spiritual levels. It should be remembered that each of the 4 stages of each religion can include many spiritual stages. However, these 1,000 stages form the core of the 4 phases mentioned above. Inhibition factors. Besides the rebellious ego or nafs, which originates from the earthly or basharic quantum potential and is permanently in a phase of temptation to impose its animalistic inclinations and desires on the heavenly potential of a true self. In a continuous struggle, other external factors also have a negative effect on the process of perfection. The positronic forces are the dark energy of the world of darkness, immorality, and external and internal sabotage and the like can be seen as an obstacle or at least a delaying factor on the path to spiritual growth. The attraction of the world and the lack of awareness about God, about oneself and about the environment, and the lack of love and affection in our shadow world are other factors that reduce the acceleration of this process. In addition, the effects of the burden caused by the negative information of the karma system's database are also among the above-mentioned factors that make the effort against animal, rebellious ego or nafs more difficult. Auxiliary factors. The positive forces and elements of the world of light that live among us in human form in our dark world are comparable to the dry, combustible pieces of wood scattered everywhere in a frozen forest on a winter night. Only these noble personalities are capable of absorbing the divine energy of light in large quantities according to their spiritual rank and thus purifying the environment from the negative dark energy. Some of these light elements do not even know who they really are and how valuable their existence is for the environment. These people absorb the divine light very effectively and thus warm up their environment. Some of these personalities, such as Jesus Christ and other prophets, have an additional spiritual mission. But the mission of the others has already been discussed. The existence of these personalities is very important for the others, whether they are aware of it or not. In the works of Master Elahi, we come across a position that was simply called manifestation of God. According to Ustad Elahi's explanation, this is considered the highest spiritual authority according to the Creator. I personally believe that this position has only been incarnated 3 times on planet Earth in this civilization, and, at least in this civilization, will no longer appear on Earth as a human being. This particular phenomenon occurs at a time when fundamental reforms in all areas, both immaterial and material, must be implemented. This phenomenon acts like a general amnesty, which on the one hand accelerates the spiritual growth of the believers and on the other hand influences the view of the perfection of those who are not mentally developed and motivates them to take the spiritual process of perfection seriously. Such a phenomenon leaves behind a dozen other positive effects that gradually emerged over decades. According to Ustad Elahi's teachings, the eminent personalities, the 11 archangels, namely Gabriel, Michael, Raphael, Israfil, Perelaine, and the other angels, are those closest to the manifestation of God. Most of these personalities come from the group of saviors. The effects of these incredibly powerful creatures on the heavenly soul are manifold. Some truly moving spiritual inspirations, which every human being has experienced at least once in his or her life, are from these personalities. In addition to this archangel group, other authorities at the University of the Perfection Process have been appointed by Master Elahi, 9 of whom are positions for women and the other 12 for men. It should be noted that in Christianity, none of the archangels are female, while in Islamic teachings in this context, an angel is only recognized as a female angel. At the University of the Perfection Process of Ustad Elahi, a student is required to observe all the principles whose implementation not only guarantees the understanding and mental digestion of spiritual and mental matters, but also ensures the preservation of social order and human rights, and also the rights of other creatures. Among the principles mentioned above, the following are important: adherence to religious or spiritual matters. These 2 areas sometimes get in each other's way. Adherence to moral principles. Respect for social affairs, laws and positive customs and traditions. Respect for the rights of people, animals, plants, and even minerals, etc. The 21 above-mentioned authorities of the University of the Perfection Process have a special spiritual brilliance compared to the archangels discussed above. Time, a determining factor. As explained in the previous articles, according to the teachings of Master Elahi, each celestial soul, from the beginning of its creation, has 50,000 Earth years at its disposal to carry out the designated process and attain perfection, while the sum of the 2 successive earthly lives must be 100 years. This means that if a person lives 30 years in his first earthly life, he must live 70 years in his second life. For this reason, each soul has 1,000 earthly lives, in which it must go through and internalize 1,000 soul stages. At the same time, it should be mentioned that if a person lives more than 100 years in one earthly life, the addition of these years which he has lived for more than 100 years in both earthly lives is subtracted from the time that soul has to spend in the hereafter. It should be remembered that the 50,000 years are only connected with earthly life. How long a soul may stay in the hereafter has nothing to do with earthly time and is calculated in a different way. One of the main problems in the completion of soul perfection is the immutability of the time a soul, human being, has at its disposal. Even more important is that human beings normally do not know themselves how much time is still available to them and how much has passed as long as they are in the body and lead an earthly life. Therefore, they cannot estimate how serious the matter is and how important and decisive the earthly time is. Research and investigation. Farah Mars Tabish. Sources. Works of Ostad Elahi in the book Human Being from the Point of View of the University of the Perfection Process by Farah Mars Tabish.